If you are a woman over 50 and the thought of spending the holidays alone fills you with dread, if you have been scrolling through social media, seeing everyone else's family gatherings while you sit in an empty house wondering how your life ended up here, if you feel like you are the only person in the world who will be alone this Christmas, this Hanukkah, this New Year's Eve, I need you to stop right now and listen, because what I am about to tell you will change everything. You are not alone in being alone. You are not the only one. You are not broken. You are not being punished. And the shame you feel about spending the holidays by yourself is not based on truth. It is based on a cultural lie that has been sold to you your entire life. This video is not going to give you fake positivity. I am not going to tell you to just be grateful or look on the bright side or pretend that being alone during the holidays does not hurt. It does hurt. The silence hurts. The empty chair hurts. Watching everyone else celebrate while you are by yourself hurts. But here is what I am going to give you instead of false comfort. I am going to give you the psychological truth about why being alone during the holidays feels so unbearable. I am going to show you that you are not alone in this experience, that millions of women over 50 are spending the holidays by themselves. And I am going to give you 10 concrete survival tools that will help you not just get through the holidays alone, but potentially transform your relationship with solitude forever. By the end of this video, you will understand why the culture has conditioned you to fear being alone, why that fear is a learned response and not truth, and how to create a holiday experience that protects your peace instead of destroying it. You will have practical strategies you can use today, tomorrow, this week. You will have language you can use when people ask what you are doing for the holidays. You will have permission to design a holiday that fits your actual life instead of the fantasy life the greeting cards promised you. And most importantly, you will know with absolute certainty that you are not the only one. But before we go any further, I need something from you. If you are a woman over 50 who is spending the holidays alone, or who dreads the holidays because of loneliness, or who feels invisible and forgotten during this season, subscribe to this channel right now and turn on the notification bell. This is Enough and Whole, and this is where we talk about the real psychology of life after 50 for women. We do not do fake positivity here. We do not do toxic gratitude. We do honest psychology based on the work of Walter Riso and decades of research on emotional independence, self-worth, and healthy boundaries. Every week, I bring you content that honors your reality. So subscribe now, hit that bell, and let's continue. Now let's talk about why being alone during the holidays hurts so much more than being alone any other time of year. Because you can handle solitude most of the time. You can manage it in February or April or August. But something about the holidays makes the loneliness feel unbearable. And understanding why that happens will help you stop blaming yourself and start protecting yourself. The first reason the holidays amplify loneliness is cultural saturation. For 2 months straight, from Thanksgiving through New Year's, you are bombarded with images of togetherness. Every commercial shows families laughing around a table. Every store plays songs about coming home and being together. Every movie shows people reuniting with loved ones. Every social media feed is filled with photos of big gatherings, happy couples, grandchildren opening presents. The cultural message is relentless and unanimous. The holidays are for families, for connection, for belonging. And if you do not have that, the culture tells you that you are outside of normal. This saturation creates what psychologists call social comparison on steroids. You are not just comparing your life to other people's lives occasionally. You are comparing your solitude to everyone else's togetherness constantly, every single day, everywhere you look. And your brain, which is wired to assess social belonging as a survival mechanism, interprets that comparison as data. Data that says, everyone else has what you do not have. Everyone else belongs. Everyone else is loved. You are the outlier. You are the one who failed. And that constant comparison creates a level of emotional pain that is genuinely difficult to survive. The second reason is the activation of old wounds. The holidays are not neutral. They are loaded with memory, with history, with ghosts of Christmases past. Maybe you remember when your children were young and the house was chaotic and you were needed. Maybe you remember when your parents were alive and you all gathered at their house. Maybe you remember when your marriage was still alive and you celebrated together. Maybe you remember when you had friends who included you. Those memories are not abstract, they are visceral, and the holidays bring them all to the surface. So you are not just dealing with present loneliness. You are dealing with accumulated grief for every version of the holidays that no longer exists. Walter Riso teaches that unresolved grief compounds over time. Each loss adds to the previous losses. And holidays, because they are repetitive rituals, become annual reminders of everything you have lost. Your parent who is no longer at the table, your marriage that ended, your children who are now celebrating somewhere else, your friends who drifted away, your younger self who had a future full of possibilities that did not come true. All of that grief gets activated simultaneously during the holidays. And if you have not given yourself permission to grieve those losses, if you have been stuffing them down and telling yourself to just be grateful, the pain becomes overwhelming. The third reason is the pressure to perform happiness. The holidays do not just expect you to be content. They demand that you be joyful, festive, grateful, full of Christmas spirit. If you admit that you are lonely, that you are struggling, that the holidays are hard, people respond with discomfort. They say things like, "But it is Christmas. How can you be sad at Christmas?" As if the date on the calendar has the power to erase loneliness, grief, or pain. So you learn to lie. You learn to say you are fine when you are not. You learn to smile when you want to cry. And that performance, that constant split between your internal reality and your external presentation, is exhausting. Now let me give you some numbers that might surprise you. According to recent research, approximately 35 to 40% of adults over 50 report feeling lonely during the holidays. That translates to millions of people. Millions of women just like you sitting in empty houses, scrolling through other people's photos, wondering why their life did not turn out the way they thought it would. You are not rare, you are not unusual, you are not the only one. You are part of a massive, mostly invisible population of women who are surviving the holidays alone while pretending to be fine. And here is another number that matters. Studies show that women over 50 are significantly more likely to live alone than men the same age. Because women live longer. Because women are more likely to be widowed. Because women are more likely to have been the primary caretakers who sacrificed their own social connections to take care of everyone else. So now, after decades of putting everyone else first, you find yourself alone. And instead of recognizing that this is a structural, cultural, demographic reality, you blame yourself. You think you did something wrong, but you did not. You are experiencing the predictable outcome of being a woman in a culture that uses women up and then discards them. Let me tell you about 3 women so you can see yourself in their stories and know you are not alone. The first is Janet. She is 62. Divorced 15 years ago. Her 2 adult children live across the country with their own families. They alternate holidays, so this year they are spending Christmas with their in-laws. Janet will be alone. She has friends, but they are all busy with their own families. For weeks, she has been dreading Christmas Day. She keeps imagining herself sitting alone while everyone else is celebrating. She feels pathetic. She feels like she failed at life. But Janet did not fail. She raised 2 successful children. She survived a difficult marriage and a painful divorce. She built a life as a single woman. The only thing she is guilty of is being alone during a holiday that the culture says requires a crowd. The second is Barbara. She is 58, never married, no children. She spent her 20s and 30s building a career. She thought there would be time for relationships later, but later never came. Now she is alone during the holidays and people look at her with pity. They ask intrusive questions. Why did you never marry? Did you not want children? as if her singleness requires an explanation or an apology. Barbara has spent years absorbing the message that her life is somehow less than because it does not include a husband and children. But Barbara's life is not less than. It is just different, and different does not equal failed. The third is Diane. She is 71, widowed 3 years ago. This will be her third Christmas without her husband. The first year, people were kind. They checked on her, they invited her places. By the second year, the invitations slowed down. By the third year, people assume she is fine. They assume she has moved on. But she has not moved on. She is still grieving. And Christmas, with all its memories of 50 years of celebrating together, is brutal. She will spend Christmas alone, not because she wants to, but because people have forgotten she is still in pain. Diane did not fail. She loved deeply and lost deeply. And now she is navigating the aftermath alone because the culture does not know how to hold space for long-term grief. If you see yourself in Janet, Barbara, or Diane, you are not alone. There are millions of women living versions of these exact stories. And every single one of them, just like you, believes she is the only one. Believes something is wrong with her. Believes she failed. But none of that is true. What is true is that life after 50 for women often includes solitude. And the holidays make that solitude feel like a spotlight shining on everything you have lost and everything you do not have. But that spotlight is not revealing your failure. It is revealing the gap between cultural fantasy and lived reality. And that gap exists for millions of women, not just you. Now let's talk about the specific fears that make spending the holidays alone feel unbearable. Because it is not just about being by yourself. There are deeper, often unconscious fears that get activated during this season. And until you identify those fears and challenge them directly, they will continue to torture you. So I am going to name 3 fears that almost every woman over 50 experiences when facing the holidays alone. And I am going to show you why each fear, while it feels true, is actually based on distorted thinking. The first fear is this: if I spend the holidays alone, it means I am unlovable. This fear runs so deep that most women do not even recognize it as a fear. It feels like a fact. You look at your empty house, you look at other people's full tables, and your brain automatically concludes, they have people because they are lovable. I do not have people because I am not lovable. If I were more attractive, more interesting, more valuable, more worthy, someone would want to spend the holidays with me. But no one does. Therefore, I am fundamentally unlovable. But this conclusion is based on false logic. Being alone during the holidays does not mean you are unlovable. It means that circumstances, life transitions, losses, geography, and choices have resulted in you being physically by yourself during this particular season. Maybe your children live far away. Maybe your partner died. Maybe your friends are busy with their own families. Maybe you chose to distance yourself from toxic relationships. Maybe you prioritized your career over building a large social network. None of those circumstances say anything about your lovability. They say something about the complexity of life, about aging, about loss, about priorities. But they do not say anything about your worth as a person. Walter Riso teaches that your worth is intrinsic. It is not earned through achievement. It is not granted by other people's presence. It is not determined by how many people show up to your holiday dinner. You have value simply because you exist, simply because you are a human being with dignity, with the capacity for thought, feeling, and growth. That value cannot be taken away by circumstance. It cannot be diminished by solitude. It cannot be revoked because life did not turn out the way you expected. But if you have spent 50 years believing that your value comes from being chosen, from being surrounded, from being needed, then being alone feels like proof that you have no value. And that belief is what creates the unbearable pain. Not the solitude itself, the story you tell yourself about the solitude. The second fear is this: If I spend the holidays alone, everyone will pity me. This fear is about shame. You imagine people asking what you are doing for the holidays and you having to admit you are spending it alone. You imagine the look in their eyes, the pity, the discomfort, the awkward pause before they say something like, "Oh, well, that is okay. Some people prefer a quiet holiday." You imagine them going home and telling their families, "Can you believe she is spending Christmas alone? How sad?" And that imagined pity feels worse than the actual loneliness. Because pity confirms what you already fear, that your life is tragic, that you are someone to be felt sorry for, that you are outside of normal. But here is what you need to understand about pity. Other people's pity says more about them than it says about you. When someone pities you for being alone, what they are really revealing is their own fear. Their fear that if they lost their family, their partner, their social network, they would be worthless. They pity you because they cannot imagine surviving what you are surviving. But their inability to imagine it does not mean you are tragic. It means they are afraid, and their fear is not your responsibility. You do not have to shrink yourself, lie about your circumstances, or pretend your life is different just to protect other people from their own fears about aging and loneliness. The truth is, many people will pity you. That is unavoidable. But their pity does not define your reality. You can spend the holidays alone and be at peace. You can spend the holidays alone and have meaning. You can spend the holidays alone and create beauty. Their inability to see that possibility is their limitation, not yours. And the more you can separate their perception from your reality, the less power their pity will have over you. You do not need their approval. You do not need them to understand. You need your own understanding, your own compassion, your own recognition that being alone does not equal being tragic. The third fear is this: if I spend the holidays alone this year, it means I will be alone forever. This fear is about hopelessness. You look at your empty house on Christmas, and your brain projects that reality into an endless future. You think, this is it. This is my life now, alone forever. Every Christmas from now until I die will be like this, empty, silent, meaningless. And that projection feels so overwhelming that you want to escape your own life. Because one lonely Christmas is survivable. But the thought of 50 more lonely Christmases feels like a prison sentence. But this fear is based on a cognitive distortion called fortune-telling. You are predicting the future as if you have certainty about what will happen. But you do not have certainty. Life changes, circumstances change, relationships change. You might meet someone next year. You might reconnect with old friends. You might move to a new place. You might build a chosen family. You might discover that solitude becomes something you value instead of something you fear. Or you might continue to spend holidays alone and discover that you can create a life that feels meaningful even without the traditional family gathering. All of those possibilities exist, but your fear is collapsing all possibilities into one fixed future, alone forever. And that future is not real. It is a projection created by your frightened mind. Walter Riso teaches that catastrophic thinking, the belief that the worst possible outcome is inevitable, is one of the most damaging thought patterns a person can have, because it robs you of the present. You cannot be here now, navigating this one holiday, if your mind is already living in a catastrophic future where nothing ever changes and you are alone forever. So part of surviving the holidays alone is pulling your mind back from that future and anchoring it in the present. This year, this holiday, this moment, not forever, just now, and now is survivable. Now you can handle. It is the imagined forever that feels unbearable. So those are the three fears. The fear that being alone means you are unlovable. The fear that other people will pity you. The fear that this is forever. And every single one of those fears, while it feels absolutely true, is based on distorted thinking. Being alone does not mean you are unlovable. Other people's pity does not define your reality. And this moment does not determine your entire future. When you can see those fears clearly and recognize them as fears rather than facts, they start to lose their power. Not immediately, not completely, but gradually. And that gradual loss of power is what creates space for you to survive the holidays, not by pretending to be fine, but by actually being okay. Now I need to tell you something that might be uncomfortable, but is critically important. The loneliness you feel during the holidays is not just about the holidays. It is a symptom of something deeper. It is revealing patterns that have been running your life for decades. And until you see those patterns clearly, you will keep suffering the same pain year after year, holiday after holiday, whether you are alone or surrounded by people. The first pattern that holiday loneliness reveals is chronic self-abandonment. For most of your adult life, you have probably been the one who takes care of everyone else. You are the one who makes sure everyone feels loved, included, comfortable. You are the one who plans the gatherings, cooks the meals, buys the gifts, remembers the details that make holidays special for other people. You have spent decades being the emotional center of other people's celebrations. But who has been the emotional center of yours? Who has made sure you feel loved, included, seen? Often, nobody. Not because people are cruel, but because you trained them not to see you. You trained them to take from you without giving back. You made yourself a function instead of a person. And now, when circumstances have changed and you are alone, you are facing the consequence of that pattern. The people you spent decades serving are busy with their own lives. They do not think to invite you because you never taught them that you needed inviting. You always showed up. You always made things happen. You never asked for anything. So they assumed you were fine. They assumed you preferred to be independent. They assumed you did not need what everyone else needs, to be thought of, to be included, to be cared for. And now you are alone during the holidays, and you blame yourself for being unlovable. But the problem is not that you are unlovable. The problem is that you have been abandoning yourself for so long that other people learn to abandon you too. Walter Riso calls this the price of chronic self-sacrifice. When you spend your life giving and never receiving, when you prioritize everyone else's needs and ignore your own, when you make yourself endlessly available without ever setting boundaries, you do not end up beloved. You end up used. And then, when you can no longer perform that role, when you are too tired or too old or the circumstances have changed, people move on. They find someone else to serve them, and you are left alone wondering what you did wrong. What you did wrong was sacrifice yourself. What you did wrong was teach people that you do not have needs. What you did wrong was believe that self-erasure equals love. The second pattern that holiday loneliness reveals is the absence of reciprocal relationships. Look at your life honestly. How many of your relationships are truly reciprocal? How many people in your life ask how you are and actually wait for a real answer? How many people notice when you are struggling? How many people offer support without you having to beg for it? How many people celebrate you the way you celebrate them? For most women over 50, the answer is very few, or none. Because you have spent your life in one-sided relationships where you give and they take, where you show up and they receive, where you sacrifice and they benefit. And holidays expose that reality brutally. Because holidays are when people show you what you mean to them. If you matter to someone, they include you. They think of you. They make space for you. And if you are spending the holidays alone while the people you spent years caring for are celebrating without you, that is data. Painful data. Data that says these relationships were never actually reciprocal. You were a function in their lives, not a person they valued. And now that the function is no longer needed in the same way, you are no longer included. That realization is devastating. But it is also clarifying. Because once you see it, you can stop blaming yourself and start making different choices. The third pattern that holiday loneliness reveals is codependency on external validation. You feel worthless when you are alone because your sense of worth has always come from outside yourself. From being needed, from being useful, from being surrounded. When those external sources are removed, when you are alone and nobody needs you, your sense of self collapses because there is nothing internal holding it up. You never built an internal sense of worth. You never developed a relationship with yourself. You never learned that you can be whole and valuable even when you are alone. So solitude feels like annihilation. Like you cease to exist if nobody is looking at you, needing you, validating you. This is one of the most painful patterns to face because it requires admitting that you have been living outside of yourself for decades. That you have been so focused on other people's opinions, other people's needs, other people's approval that you lost contact with your own center. And now, when you are forced to be with yourself during the holidays, you realize you do not know who you are. You do not know what you want. You do not know how to be alone with yourself because you have been avoiding yourself for 50 years. That is what holiday loneliness is really revealing. Not that you are unlovable, but that you have not learned to love yourself. Not that other people have abandoned you, but that you abandoned yourself first. Now I need to pause here and ask you something directly. Out of those 3 patterns I just described, which one hit you the hardest? Type 1 in the comments if it was chronic self-abandonment. Type 2 if it was absence of reciprocal relationships. Type 3 if it was codependency on external validation. Just type the number. You do not have to explain unless you want to. But naming which pattern is loudest in your life right now is the first step toward changing it. So pause this video, go to the comments, type your number. Look at how many other women typed the same number, and then come back and let's continue. Because what comes next is going to give you the tools to break these patterns and survive the holidays, not by pretending, but by actually being okay. Now we get to the practical part, the concrete tools you can use right now to survive the holidays alone without falling apart. These are not vague suggestions like think positive or be grateful. These are specific, psychologically grounded strategies that will change how you experience solitude during this season. I am going to give you 10 tools total, and I want you to choose at least 3 that feel most urgent for you. Write them down. Commit to trying them. Because reading about them will not help you. Practicing them will. The first tool is radical reframing of what it means to be alone during the holidays. Right now, your brain has learned to interpret being alone as failure, as punishment, as evidence of unworthiness. Every time you think about spending Christmas or New Year's alone, your nervous system responds with shame, panic, grief. But that response is not hardwired. It is learned, which means it can be unlearned. And the way you unlearn it is by consciously, deliberately reframing what solitude means. Here is the reframe. Being alone during the holidays is not failure. It is freedom. It is the freedom to design a day that actually fits your energy, your needs, your truth, instead of performing for other people. It is the freedom from obligation, from pretending, from managing everyone else's emotions while ignoring your own. It is the freedom to rest, to grieve, to be honest, to do exactly what you want without anyone judging you or expecting you to be anything other than what you are. That freedom is not a consolation prize. It is a gift. But you cannot receive it if you are still telling yourself that being alone means you failed. Walter Riso teaches that the meaning you assign to an experience determines how you suffer through it. 2 women can spend Christmas alone. One believes it means she is unlovable and spends the day in agony. The other believes it means she is free and spends the day in peace. The circumstance is identical. The suffering is completely different. Because suffering is not just about what happens to you. It is about the story you tell yourself about what happens to you. So if you want to survive the holidays alone, you have to change the story. You have to practice saying, I am alone, and that is okay. I am alone, and I am still valuable. I am alone, and I am free. Say it out loud, write it down. Repeat it until your nervous system starts to believe it. The second tool is intentional planning. One of the reasons being alone during the holidays feels unbearable is because you let the day happen to you instead of designing it deliberately. You wake up with no plan. The hours stretch ahead empty and meaningless. You scroll social media and torture yourself with comparisons. You wait for someone to call or text. You sit in your house feeling sorry for yourself. And by the end of the day, you have confirmed your worst belief. Being alone is unbearable. But that is not because being alone is inherently unbearable. It is because you spent the day abandoning yourself. So instead of letting the day happen to you, design it. Decide in advance exactly what you are going to do, not what you should do, not what would look good, what you actually want to do, what would feel peaceful, meaningful, or at least survivable for you. Maybe that means sleeping in, making your favorite breakfast, watching movies you love, taking a long walk, calling one trusted friend, journaling, cooking a simple meal you enjoy, going to bed early. Maybe it means volunteering somewhere so you are around people but not performing for them. Maybe it means treating the day like any other day and refusing to give it special significance. The key is specificity. Do not just say, I will get through the day. Say, I will wake up at 9 a.m. I will make coffee and sit by the window for 30 minutes without looking at my phone. I will watch this specific movie. I will take a walk at 2 p.m. I will call this specific person at 4 p.m. I will cook this specific meal at 6 p.m. I will journal for 20 minutes before bed. When you plan the day with that level of detail, you take control. You stop being a passive victim of the holiday and become an active creator of your own experience. And that shift from passive to active changes everything. Let me tell you about Maria. She is 66, widowed 5 years ago. Last year, she spent Christmas in complete despair. She had no plan. She just waited for the day to be over. She cried most of the day. She felt pathetic and broken. This year, she decided to try something different. She planned every hour. She woke up and made her late husband's favorite breakfast as a way of honoring him. She went to a volunteer kitchen and served meals for 3 hours. She came home and watched a movie he loved. She called her sister and talked for an hour. She cooked a small meal. She lit a candle. She journaled about her grief and her gratitude. And at the end of the day, she did not feel happy, but she felt okay. She felt like she had survived with dignity. And that was enough. Maria told me, the difference was not that the grief went away. The difference was that I was not waiting to be rescued. I rescued myself. I took care of myself. I honored my truth. And that felt completely different from drowning in self-pity. That is the power of intentional planning. It does not erase the pain, but it gives you agency. And agency is what transforms you from victim to survivor. Now let me give you a specific planning template you can use. Take a piece of paper. Write down every hour from when you wake up to when you go to bed. Then fill in each hour with something specific. It does not have to be exciting. It does not have to be meaningful. It just has to be intentional. If you want to spend 2 hours watching television, write that down. If you want to take a nap, write that down. If you want to cry for 30 minutes, write that down. The point is not to fill your day with fake happiness. The point is to fill your day with choices. Because every choice you make is a message to yourself. I am here. I am taking care of myself. I am not abandoning myself, even though I am alone. And here is one more critical piece of planning. Decide in advance what you will say when people ask what you are doing for the holidays. Because that question will come. And if you do not have a prepared answer, you will stumble, you will feel shame, you will probably lie. So practice your answer. Keep it simple. Keep it true. I am spending the day quietly by myself. I'm taking some time for rest and reflection. I'm doing exactly what I need to do for myself this year. You do not owe anyone an explanation. You do not have to justify your choices. You do not have to apologize for being alone. Practice saying your answer out loud until it feels solid, until you can say it without shame. Because the shame is not about being alone. The shame is about believing you need to apologize for it. The third tool is creating grief rituals. If part of why the holidays hurt is because someone you love is missing, if this is your first Christmas without a parent, a partner, a sibling, a friend, if the empty chair at the table feels louder than any presence, you need explicit permission to grieve. Not to get over it, not to move on, not to be strong, to grieve, fully, honestly, without apologizing to anyone. The culture wants you to grieve quickly and quietly. People give you a few months, maybe a year, and then they expect you to be fine. They say things like, they would want you to be happy, or you need to start living again, or it has been long enough. But grief does not follow a timeline. Grief does not care that it is Christmas. Grief does not disappear because other people are uncomfortable witnessing it. And if you try to suppress your grief, if you try to pretend you are fine when you are falling apart, the grief does not go away. It goes underground. It becomes chronic depression. It becomes emotional numbness. It becomes the belief that joy is no longer available to you. So create a ritual that honors your grief during the holidays. Light a candle for the person who is gone. Put their photo somewhere you can see it. Say their name out loud. Talk to them. Tell them you miss them. Tell them the holidays are hard without them. Cry if you need to. Scream if you need to. Write them a letter you will never send. Cook their favorite food. Listen to their favorite music. Visit their grave if that feels right. Or create a completely new ritual that has meaning for you. The form does not matter. What matters is that you are acknowledging the loss instead of pretending it does not exist. Walter Riso teaches that expressed grief, grief that is allowed to move through your body instead of getting stuck, eventually softens. Not immediately, not completely, but over time. You do not stop missing them. But the unbearable stabbing pain becomes something quieter, something you can carry without it destroying you. But you only get to that softer place by going through the hard place, by feeling the grief fully instead of running from it. So this holiday, do not run. Sit with the grief. Honor it. Let it be exactly as big as it is. And give yourself credit for surviving something that is genuinely, objectively hard. Let me tell you about Ruth. She is 69. Her husband died 2 years ago after 47 years of marriage. Last Christmas, people told her she needed to start moving on. They invited her to gatherings and expected her to smile and be social. She tried, she went, she pretended, and she came home and fell apart. This year she decided to do something different. She stayed home, she spent the day with her grief, she looked at old photos, she watched their wedding video, she talked to him out loud, she cried. She laughed, remembering funny moments. She cooked his favorite meal. She set a place for him at the table. And she ate alone, but felt less alone than she had felt at last year's gathering, surrounded by people who did not understand. Ruth told me, "I thought honoring my grief would make it worse, but it actually made it better. Not happy, not okay, but bearable, because I was not fighting it anymore. I was not pretending. I was just being honest." And honesty, even when it hurts, feels better than performance. That is the gift of grief rituals. They give you permission to be exactly where you are instead of where other people think you should be. The fourth tool is selective connection without codependency. Being alone during the holidays does not mean you have to be completely isolated. But it also does not mean you have to force yourself into situations that make you feel worse. What you need is selective, intentional, bounded connection. Connection that nourishes you instead of draining you. Connection where you can be real instead of performing. Connection that respects your limits and your truth. This might mean calling one trusted friend and having a real conversation. Not small talk, not pretending. Real talk. This is hard for me. I feel lonely. I need to be honest with someone. It might mean reaching out to another woman you know is also spending the holidays alone and saying, let's not do this alone. Let's have coffee together. Let's be honest with each other. It might mean joining an online community of women who are navigating the same reality. It might mean texting someone you trust and saying, I am struggling today and I just need you to know I exist. The key is that the connection has to be authentic. It has to be safe. It has to be reciprocal. If you reach out to someone and they minimize your feelings, if they tell you to just be grateful, if they make it about them, if they guilt you for not being happier, that is not connection. That is abandonment disguised as connection. And it will make you feel worse, not better. So be selective. Reach out only to people who have proven they can hold space for your truth. And if you do not have anyone like that in your life right now, that is okay. That is data. Data that tells you that you need to start building different kinds of relationships. But for this holiday, you do not have to force yourself into toxic connection just to avoid being alone. Sometimes being alone is healthier than being with people who make you feel invisible. Walter Riso teaches that healthy connection is built on authenticity, not performance. So stop performing. Stop pretending you are fine when you are not. Stop protecting other people from your reality. If someone asks how you are, tell the truth. I am struggling. The holidays are hard for me this year. If they can handle that truth, they are your people. If they cannot, they were never truly connected to you anyway. They were connected to the version of you that made them comfortable. And losing relationships with people who only want the comfortable version of you is not loss. It is clarity. Here is a script you can use when reaching out for connection. Hi, I wanted to be honest with you. I am spending the holidays alone this year, and it is harder than I thought it would be. I am not asking you to fix it or change your plans. I just needed to tell someone the truth instead of pretending I am fine. If you have 20 minutes to talk this week, I would really appreciate it. But if you do not, I understand. I just needed you to know. That message is vulnerable, honest, and bounded. It asks for something specific. It does not demand. It does not guilt. And the response you get will tell you whether that person is capable of real connection. The fifth tool is setting boundaries around invasive questions. People are going to ask what you are doing for the holidays. They are going to ask if you have plans. They are going to ask if you are spending it with family. And when you tell them you are spending it alone, they are going to respond with pity, with discomfort, with invasive follow-up questions. Really? You are all alone. Why? What happened? Do you not have any family? That is so sad. And if you do not have a boundary prepared, those questions will trigger shame, defensiveness, and a desperate urge to justify your life. So you need to practice your boundary in advance. You need a response that is polite but firm, a response that shuts down invasive questions without you having to explain or defend yourself. Here are some options. I am spending the holidays quietly by myself, and I am at peace with that. I am doing exactly what I need to do for myself this year. I prefer not to discuss my holiday plans, but thank you for asking. That works for me, and I hope you have a lovely holiday. All of those responses are polite, clear, and final. They do not invite further questions. They do not apologize. They do not justify. They simply state your reality and close the door on interrogation. Practice saying these responses out loud. Practice until they feel solid. Practice until you can say them without shame creeping into your voice. Because the shame is what invites more questions. When you answer with confidence, even if you do not feel confident, people sense that the topic is closed and they move on. But when you answer with shame, with hesitation, with a desperate need to make them understand, they keep pushing, they keep asking, they keep making you defend your choices. So practice your boundary, make it a shield, and use it every single time someone crosses the line. And here is one more critical boundary. You do not have to answer the phone on Christmas Day if you do not want to. You do not have to respond to texts. You do not have to participate in group video calls where everyone else has their big family and you are the only one alone. If those interactions make you feel worse, skip them. Turn off your phone. Put it in another room. Give yourself permission to be unreachable. People might be offended. They might say you are isolating yourself, but their discomfort is not your responsibility. Your emotional survival is your responsibility. And if participating in certain interactions feels like self-harm, you are allowed to say no. You are allowed to protect yourself even if other people do not understand. The sixth tool is daily self-compassion practice. This is the foundation of everything. You have to stop speaking to yourself with cruelty. Stop calling yourself pathetic for feeling lonely. Stop telling yourself you should be over it by now. Stop comparing yourself to other women and deciding you are less than. That internal voice, that constant self-criticism, is not motivating you to be better. It is destroying you from the inside. And during the holidays, when the loneliness is loudest, that voice becomes unbearable. So you have to actively replace it with compassion. Self-compassion is not self-pity. It is not feeling sorry for yourself. It is treating yourself the way you would treat a dear friend who was suffering. With gentleness, with understanding, with permission to be imperfect and still worthy of love. When your mind says, you are alone because you are not good enough, self-compassion answers, that is not true. I am alone because of circumstances and losses. My aloneness says nothing about my worth. When your mind says, everyone else has it together except you, self-compassion answers, I am comparing my reality to other people's performances. That is unfair and untrue. When your mind says, you should be happy it is Christmas, self-compassion answers, I am allowed to feel what I feel. My feelings are valid. Practice this every single day during the holiday season. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Sit quietly. Put your hand on your heart. And speak to yourself with kindness. Out loud if possible. Say, I see you. I know this is hard. I am not abandoning you. You are doing your best. You are allowed to struggle. You are allowed to be human. You are valuable even when you are alone. You are enough even when life does not look the way you thought it would. This practice feels awkward at first. It feels fake. But if you do it every day, it starts to create new neural pathways. It starts to rewire your relationship with yourself. And that rewiring is what makes survival possible. Walter Riso teaches that the relationship you have with yourself is the foundation of every other relationship in your life. If you are cruel to yourself, if you reject yourself, if you abandon yourself, it does not matter how many people are around you. You will still feel alone. But if you can be gentle with yourself, if you can stay with yourself, if you can treat yourself with compassion, then even physical solitude becomes survivable. Because you are not alone. You are with yourself, and you are someone worth being with. Before we continue with the final tools, I need you to do something. If this video is helping you, if you are starting to see that you can survive the holidays alone, if you are feeling even slightly less hopeless than when you started watching, subscribe to this channel right now and turn on notifications. Because next week, I am releasing a video specifically about how to handle New Year's Eve alone without falling into despair. That video is going to give you strategies, language, and psychological tools to navigate the loneliest night of the year with dignity. You need that video. So subscribe now, hit that bell, and let's finish these final tools together. Now let me start by destroying the biggest lie you have been told. The lie is this: spending the holidays alone means something is wrong with you. That if you were more lovable, more interesting, more successful, more valuable, you would not be in this situation. That being alone during the holidays is proof of personal failure. This lie is everywhere. It is in every commercial showing multi-generational families. It is in every movie where the lonely person is portrayed as tragic. It is in the pity you see in people's eyes when you tell them you are spending Christmas alone. And after 50 years of absorbing this message, you have internalized it. You believe it. You look at your empty house and think, "This is my fault, I failed." But that belief is not truth. It is cultural conditioning designed to make you feel inadequate, so you will keep consuming, keep performing, keep trying to fix yourself. The truth is this: there are millions of women over 50 spending the holidays alone. Divorced women, widowed women, women whose children live far away, women who never had children, women who are estranged from family, women whose friends are busy with their own celebrations, women in relationships that are so cold they might as well be alone. This is not rare. This is not unusual. This is not proof of failure. This is the statistical reality of life after 50 for a massive percentage of women. Walter Riso teaches that one of the most damaging beliefs a woman can carry is the belief that her worth is determined by whether she is surrounded by people. Under that belief, solitude becomes a threat. Being alone becomes evidence of worthlessness. But your worth is not determined by how many people show up to your holiday dinner. Your worth is intrinsic. It exists whether you are surrounded by 50 people or sitting alone in your living room. The culture does not want you to believe that, because if you believed it, you would stop trying so hard to prove yourself worthy of love. You would stop performing. You would stop consuming. You would stop sacrificing yourself. And the systems that profit from your insecurity would collapse. So the first thing you need to do, right now, before we go any further, is separate the fact of being alone from the judgment about being alone. Being alone during the holidays is a circumstance. It is not a moral statement. It is not proof of anything except that circumstances, losses, life transitions, and choices have led to you being physically by yourself during this particular season. That is all it means. Nothing more. You are not alone because you are unlovable. You are not alone because you failed. You are not alone because something is fundamentally wrong with you. You are alone because life is complicated, relationships are complicated, and sometimes being alone is simply what is true right now. The seventh tool is digital detox during the holidays. This might be the most important tool on this entire list because social media is actively destroying your ability to survive the holidays alone. Every time you scroll, you are exposing yourself to curated images of other people's perfect celebrations. Images that are designed to make you feel inadequate. Images that trigger comparison, envy, shame, and the belief that everyone else has what you do not have. And your brain, which cannot distinguish between reality and performance, interprets those images as data. Data that says, you are the only one struggling. You are the only one alone. Everyone else has figured out how to do life correctly except you. But that data is false. Those images are not documentation of reality. They are advertisements. They are performances. Behind many of those smiling family photos are years of dysfunction, resentment, and pain that you cannot see. But you do not know that when you are scrolling. All you see is the performance, and all you feel is the gap between their curated highlight reel and your messy, painful, honest reality. That comparison is not just making you sad, it is making survival impossible. Because every time you scroll, you are reinforcing the belief that being alone means you failed. So during the holidays, especially on Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, and any other day that feels particularly hard, delete the apps. Not just log out. Delete them. Remove them from your phone entirely. Because if they are there, you will scroll. You will tell yourself you are just checking for a minute. And that minute will become an hour. And that hour will become a spiral of self-torture that leaves you feeling worse than you did before. But if the apps are not there, if you have to physically reinstall them, you create a barrier. A moment to pause and ask, is this actually going to help me, or is this going to hurt me? Walter Riso teaches that you cannot heal in the same environment that made you sick. If social media is the environment that is making you feel worthless, you have to remove yourself from that environment. Not forever, not permanently, but during the times when you are most vulnerable. During the holidays, when the comparisons are most brutal and your defenses are lowest. Give yourself that protection. Turn off your phone. Put it in a drawer. Spend the day in the real world instead of the curated world. And notice how different you feel when you are not constantly measuring your life against everyone else's performance. Let me tell you about Susan. She is 61. Last Christmas, she spent the entire day scrolling Instagram. Every post she saw made her feel worse. Families laughing, couples kissing, tables full of food and people. By the end of the day, she was sobbing. She felt like the loneliest person on earth. This year, she deleted all social media apps on December 23rd. She told herself she would reinstall them on January 2nd. And for 10 days, she stayed off social media completely. She read books. She watched movies. She went for walks. She called one friend. And at the end of those 10 days, she felt something she had not felt in years. Peace. Not happiness, not joy, but peace. The absence of constant comparison. The absence of feeling like everyone else was winning while she was losing. Susan told me, I thought I would feel more isolated without social media. But I actually felt less isolated because I was not torturing myself with images of lives I do not have. I was just living my own life. And my own life, when I am not comparing it to everyone else's, is actually okay. That is the power of digital detox. It removes the constant external assault on your sense of self. And in that quiet space, you can finally hear your own voice again. The 8th tool is creating new traditions that fit your actual life. One of the reasons the holidays are so painful is because you are trying to replicate traditions that no longer fit. You are trying to recreate the Christmas you had when your children were young, when your parents were alive, when your marriage was intact. But those versions of Christmas are gone. And trying to recreate them when the people, the circumstances, and the life stage have completely changed is like trying to wear clothes from 30 years ago. They do not fit, and forcing yourself into them is painful. So stop trying to recreate the past. Stop trying to have the Christmas you used to have. Create a new Christmas. A Christmas that fits who you are now, where you are now, what you actually need now. Maybe that means skipping the tree. Maybe that means not cooking a big meal. Maybe that means not exchanging gifts. Maybe that means treating December 25th like any other day and refusing to give it special significance. Maybe that means creating a completely new ritual, volunteering, traveling, spending the day in nature, having a movie marathon, starting a project you have been putting off. The point is not to make the new tradition better than the old one. The point is to make it yours. To design it intentionally instead of defaulting to something that no longer works. New traditions send a powerful message to your subconscious. They say, my life did not end when the old traditions ended. I am still here. I am still capable of creating meaning. I am allowed to change. I am allowed to evolve. I do not have to live in the past. I can live in the present. And the present, even when it looks different from what I imagined, can still hold beauty. Here is how to create a new tradition. Ask yourself, if there were no rules about what Christmas or the holidays should look like, what would actually bring me peace? Not what would make me look good to other people. Not what would make other people think I am okay. What would actually feel peaceful or meaningful or at least survivable to me? Write it down. Plan it in detail. And then do it. Without apologizing. Without explaining. Without needing anyone else to understand or approve. This is your life, your holiday, your choice, and you are allowed to design it in whatever way protects your heart. Let me tell you about Patricia. She is 57. For 56 years, she spent Christmas the same way. Tree, decorations, big meal, gifts, the whole production. But last year, after her divorce, she was alone. She tried to do the traditional Christmas by herself, and it felt hollow, depressing, like she was performing for no one. This year, she decided to do something completely different. She did not put up a tree. She did not decorate. On Christmas Day, she got in her car and drove to the beach. She spent the entire day by the ocean. She walked. She sat in the sand. She watched the waves. She brought a journal and wrote. And at the end of the day, she felt something she had not expected. Relief. Not joy, not happiness, but deep, profound relief. Because she had given herself permission to let go of traditions that no longer fit and create something new. Patricia told me, "I thought I would feel like I was giving up, but I actually felt like I was honoring myself. I was saying, my life changed, and instead of pretending it did not, I am going to live in the truth of where I actually am. And that truth, even when it is painful, feels better than the lie. That is the gift of new traditions. They give you permission to be where you are instead of where you think you should be." The ninth tool is preparing for emotional crashes in advance. Here is what most women do not realize. Surviving the holidays alone is not a steady state. You do not just feel one way the entire time. There are moments when you feel okay, maybe even peaceful. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, a wave of grief or loneliness hits you so hard you can barely breathe. Maybe it is triggered by a song. Maybe it is seeing a family walk past your window. Maybe it is opening the refrigerator and realizing you only bought food for one. Maybe it is nothing specific at all. The wave just comes. And if you are not prepared for it, if you think feeling okay for an hour means you are fine now, the crash will destroy you. So you need to prepare for those crashes in advance. You need to know they are coming. You need to accept that they are part of the process, not evidence that you are failing. And you need to have a plan for what you will do when the wave hits. Not a plan to make the wave go away, a plan to survive it without it taking you under. Think of it like preparing for a storm. You do not prevent the storm. You prepare to weather it. You make sure you have shelter. You make sure you have supplies. You make sure you know where to go when the winds get strong. Here is what to do when the emotional crash comes. First, name it. Say out loud, "A wave is here. This is grief. This is loneliness. This is hard." Naming it takes away some of its power because it stops being this overwhelming, unnamed thing and becomes something specific that you can identify. Second, do not fight it. Do not tell yourself to stop feeling this way. Do not try to think positive or be grateful or distract yourself. Let the wave be as big as it is. Sit with it. Breathe through it. Cry if you need to. Scream into a pillow if you need to. Let it move through your body instead of trying to push it down. Third, have a specific physical action you can take when the wave hits. Something that grounds you back in your body, back in the present moment. Put your hand on your heart and feel it beating. Splash cold water on your face. Go outside and feel the air on your skin. Do 10 jumping jacks. Drink a glass of water. The specific action does not matter as much as the fact that it is physical. Because grief and loneliness live in your nervous system, and your nervous system responds to physical input more than it responds to thoughts. So move your body, ground yourself, remind yourself that you are here, you are alive, you are surviving this moment. Fourth, have the phone number of one person you can text when the wave is at its worst. Not to fix it, not to make it go away, just to witness it. Someone you can text and say, "I am having a really hard moment right now. I do not need you to fix it. I just need you to know I am struggling." And then that person can text back, "I see you. I am here. You are not alone." That is all. No advice. No trying to make you feel better. Just witnessing. Because sometimes the most powerful thing another human can do is simply acknowledge that your pain is real. Write down this plan right now. Do not wait until the wave hits. Because when you are in the middle of the crash, you will not be able to think clearly. You will not remember what to do. But if you have it written down, if you have practiced it, your body will know what to do even when your mind is overwhelmed. Name it. Do not fight it. Physical action. Text one person. That is your storm protocol. Use it every single time the wave comes. The 10th and final tool is starting to build community for the future. Because here is the hard truth. If you are spending this holiday alone, and it is painful, and you do nothing to change your life patterns, you will spend next holiday alone too. And the one after that. And the one after that. The loneliness will not magically fix itself. Circumstances will not spontaneously change. You have to actively, intentionally start building different kinds of relationships. Not romantic relationships necessarily. Not even family relationships. But reciprocal, authentic, chosen relationships with people who see you, value you, and show up for you. This does not happen overnight. You are not going to build a new community in the next 2 weeks. But you can start. You can take one small action this month that begins the process. Maybe that means joining a group, a book club, a volunteer organization, a hiking group, a class, an online community for women over 50. Maybe that means reaching out to one person you have lost touch with and saying, "I have been thinking about you. I would love to reconnect." Maybe that means being more honest with the people already in your life about what you actually need instead of pretending you are fine. Walter Riso teaches that healthy relationships are built slowly, through consistent small actions over time. You do not go from isolated to surrounded in one dramatic gesture. You go from isolated to less isolated by showing up, by being authentic, by taking small risks, by letting people see you, by asking for what you need, by offering what you can give, over and over, month after month. And eventually, you look up and realize you have people. Not a crowd, maybe just 2 or 3 people. But 2 or 3 people who actually see you is worth more than a crowd of people who treat you like a function. So make a plan. What is one concrete action you will take in January to start building community? Write it down. Put it on your calendar. Commit to it. Because surviving this holiday alone is important. But changing your life so next year feels different is equally important. You do not have to do both at the same time. Right now, just survive. But once you survive, once you get to the other side of this season, use the pain you felt as fuel. Use it as motivation to build something different. Because you deserve reciprocal relationships. You deserve to be seen. You deserve to be valued. But you have to actively create the conditions for that to happen. It will not fall into your lap. You have to build it. Let me tell you about Carol. She is 63. 2 years ago, she spent the holidays completely alone, and it was devastating. She promised herself she would not let that happen again. So in January, she joined a women's hiking group. She showed up every week even when she did not feel like it. She started being more honest in conversations, instead of just being polite. She invited 2 women from the group for coffee. She started building slowly. And this year, she is spending Christmas Day with 3 women from that group. They are all single. They are all over 50. They all understand what it is like to not fit the traditional holiday script. They are cooking together. They are being honest together. They are creating their own tradition together. And Carol told me, it is not the Christmas I imagined when I was young, but it is real. It is honest. And I feel seen. And that is worth everything. That is the power of building community intentionally. It does not erase the past. It does not bring back what you lost. But it creates something new. Something that fits your actual life. Something that makes survival not just possible, but maybe, eventually, meaningful. So here is where we are. You now understand that you are not the only one spending the holidays alone. You understand that being alone does not mean you are unlovable, that it does not mean you failed, that it is not proof of anything except that life is complicated and circumstances have led to you being by yourself during this particular season. You understand why the holidays amplify loneliness more than any other time of year. You understand the 3 fears that make being alone feel unbearable, and why each of those fears is based on distorted thinking rather than truth. You understand the patterns that holiday loneliness is revealing about your life. Chronic self-abandonment, absence of reciprocal relationships, and codependency on external validation. And you have 10 concrete tools you can use right now to survive the holidays alone without falling apart. Let me recap those tools quickly so you can write them down. Tool 1. Radical reframing of what it means to be alone. Being alone is not failure, it is freedom. Tool 2. Intentional planning of every hour so you are active instead of passive. Tool 3. Creating grief rituals that honor your loss instead of suppressing it. Tool 4. Selective connection with people who can hold space for your truth. Tool 5. Setting boundaries around invasive questions with prepared responses. Tool 6. Daily self-compassion practice to replace the cruel internal voice with gentleness. Tool 7. Digital detox during the hardest days to stop the comparison spiral. Tool 8. Creating new traditions that fit your actual life instead of trying to recreate the past. Tool 9. Preparing for emotional crashes in advance with a specific protocol. Tool 10. Starting to build community for the future through small, consistent actions. You do not have to do all 10 tools. That would be overwhelming. Choose 3. The 3 that feel most urgent for your specific situation. Write them down. Commit to trying them. Because reading about these tools will not help you. Practicing them will. And practicing them is how you transform from someone who is drowning in loneliness to someone who is surviving with dignity. Not happiness, not joy, but dignity. The knowledge that you showed up for yourself, that you took care of yourself, that you did not abandon yourself even when you were alone. Now I need to tell you something that might feel impossible to believe right now. This painful holiday, this lonely season you are surviving, it does not have to be your forever. You are not locked into this reality for the rest of your life. Life changes. Circumstances change. You change. What feels unbearable today might become manageable next year. What feels impossible today might become your new normal in ways you cannot yet imagine. I am not saying it will magically get better. I am not saying you will suddenly have the big family gathering you always wanted. But I am saying that you have more power than you think. Power to change your relationship with solitude. Power to build new relationships. Power to create a life that feels meaningful even when it looks different from what you imagined. Walter Riso teaches that human beings have an extraordinary capacity for adaptation. We can survive things we never thought we could survive. We can find peace in circumstances we thought would destroy us. We can build meaning in places we thought meaning was impossible, not because we are special, not because we are strong, but because we are human. And being human means we can learn, we can grow, we can change the stories we tell ourselves, we can create new ways of being even when the old ways are gone. You have that capacity, even if you cannot feel it right now, even if you do not believe it. You have it. So this holiday season, your job is not to be happy. Your job is not to pretend you are fine. Your job is not to meet anyone else's expectations about how you should feel or what you should do. Your job is simply this: survive with dignity. Show up for yourself. Use the tools. Be honest. Be gentle. Be on your own side. And when the season is over, when you get to the other side, give yourself credit for surviving something that was genuinely, objectively hard. Because surviving hard things is an accomplishment. Even when no one else sees it, even when no one else acknowledges it, you will know. And that knowledge is what builds the foundation for everything that comes next. Before you leave this video, I need you to do 4 things. First, go to the comments right now and type which of the 3 fears from earlier in the video is loudest for you. Type 1 if it is the fear that being alone means you are unlovable. Type 2 if it is the fear that people will pity you. Type 3 if it is the fear that this is forever. Just type the number. And then look at how many other women type the same number. See how many women are in this with you. You are not the only one. Second, choose your 3 tools, the 3 that feel most urgent. Write them down right now. Put them somewhere you will see them every day during the holiday season. Commit to practicing them, not perfectly, just consistently, because consistency is what creates change. Third, subscribe to this channel if you have not already. Turn on notifications, because next week I am releasing a video about surviving New Year's Eve alone. That night is brutal for women who are by themselves. The pressure to be celebrating, to be surrounded, to be kissing someone at midnight, it is overwhelming. And I am going to give you specific strategies to navigate that night with dignity. You need that video. So subscribe now. Hit that bell. Make sure you do not miss it. Fourth, share this video with one woman who needs it. Someone you know is spending the holidays alone. Someone who is struggling. Someone who thinks she is the only one. Send it to her right now. Let her know she is not alone, that there are millions of women navigating this same reality, that survival is possible, that she is not broken, that she did not fail, that her worth does not depend on how many people show up to her holiday dinner. Share this video, and you might save someone from a night of despair. You might give someone the permission she needs to stop pretending and start surviving honestly. You are not alone in being alone. You are not the only one. Millions of women over 50 are spending the holidays by themselves. Divorced women, widowed women, single women, women with families who live far away, women estranged from toxic relationships, women in cold marriages who might as well be alone, women who prioritized careers and lost touch with social networks, women who gave everything to everyone else and now find themselves with no one. You are not rare. You are not unusual. You are not broken. You are simply a woman over 50 navigating a life stage that the culture refuses to acknowledge or honor. But we honor it here. We see it. We name it. And we give you the tools to navigate it with dignity. Your worth does not disappear because you are spending the holidays alone. Your value does not shrink because your table is empty. You are enough. You are whole. And you are allowed to survive this season in whatever way protects your heart. You do not owe anyone a performance. You do not owe anyone fake happiness. You do not owe anyone an explanation for why your life looks the way it looks. You only owe yourself honesty, gentleness, and the refusal to abandon yourself even when you are alone. This holiday season, be kind to yourself. Be honest with yourself. Be on your own side. Use the tools. Survive with dignity. And know with absolute certainty that you are not the only one. You are not alone in being alone, and you are going to survive this. I will see you in the next video.